Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at Cardano, and more specifically, we're going to be looking at the performance of Cardano and its price action during the 2019 through to 2021 time period. And we're going to be comparing that to what we've seen from the 2023 to 2025 time period, and then potentially seeing how much of it we can line up and assume true. And based on how strong of a correlation we have, we might be able to make some assumptions about what we might see going forward. If you like the video, give a like. If you don't, leave a dislike, that's totally fine. To address the elephant in the room before I get started on the video, I know I've been gone for a very long time, over 3 months at this point, and that wasn't without good reason. To keep things vague, I had to move house a few times, and each move was to a suboptimal position, we'll say. But that's all sorted out now. Everything's fine, and I'm able to focus on the things I enjoy again, like making videos. I did see a lot of your comments, and although I didn't reply to many, just because of all the things that were going on, I did really appreciate reading them. I thought they were very thoughtful, and they did mean a lot. So from this point on, fingers crossed, touch wood, I'll be uploading very regularly, and in fact more regularly than before, I'd say. So with that out of the way, let's get into the actual price analysis. So with these videos, I do want to prefix, I don't take into account events or things that are coming up. Not really. I focus mainly on previous price performance technical analysis points. So if I say Cardano might do this or that, you may have a valid reason for assuming otherwise because of something that might be about to happen or something that happens after this video comes up to influence price. Very valid. It's just not something I factor in because it's too wishy-washy. It's hard for me to quantify the value impact that events like these can have. So I just focus on TA. I look at the broad strokes over long periods of time. I don't really look at the deviation in like daily or weekly candles. I zoom out and I like to look at the complete picture. So having said that, I want to start with Cardano at the end of 2018, 2019, and we can see we come down to very close to what was Cardano's all-time low, very close to its launch price. We're looking at sub 3 cents. And we can see that the launch price for Cardano was about 2 cents. Here we're coming back down very close to this level, 2.5 cents, 3 cents, and we spend about a month down at this level. Once we've hit this low and we've put in this support or this price that's been hit, we then get a rally up. That rally is for 29 weeks in total. And during that rally, we put in multiple highs, but two that are worth noting, this sort of double top with a slightly lower first high and then a slightly higher second high. We can see the difference between these two is 12 weeks. Now I'm going to jump to the current time, or 2023, sorry, more recent history, where we're going to start our comparison, or 2024, sorry, I should say. So it's almost like a complete reset. I spoke about the launch price of Cardano being this low, kind of returning to this low afterwards. We get the same thing here in 2023. So here it happened in before 2018, 2017 type of time. Here we get it 5 years later, 2023. We put this first low in. And then again, in a shorter time frame, so approximately 7 months later, we come back down to this low for the final time, fingers crossed. And here it was much longer. So here it was from October to December. It was over a year of time. Here, much quicker, happened much sooner. Once we put in this low though, we then spent 26 weeks going up until we put in our high. And note again, like I said before, with this kind of double top, it's not as obvious here. There's a bigger difference between the two peaks here. So you could argue it's not a double top, but we do get this lower high followed by a pullback, and we then get another higher high. And it's not much higher. Here it was about 70 cents where we topped out. Here it was 85 where we topped out. So a noticeable difference, but not too crazy. Here we can see it was very much almost the same. It was 10 cents when we topped out the first time. It was still under 11 cents when we topped out the second time. But we did get this pullback and then the rally up. And again, pullback, rally up. And the 12-week difference between the two peaks. Here, very similar. 12 weeks between the two peaks. Once we get the second higher high, we trade down for 25 weeks. So we spend almost the same amount of time going down as we do going up. We then put in a low. Here, this is where a discrepancy happens. We start a rally, and then this is the COVID sell-off, where we return down to this low. And this is what we'd call a black swan event that causes big negative sudden price action, and we come back down to this low. This is where we start to see real deviations. So we have this 21-week time period of trading down, and notice there's 5 weeks difference, give or take, between each one. Here it's 26, 21, here it's 29, 25. So 4 or 5 weeks difference between the duration we spend going up compared to when we go down. Here, from this orange to purple, we can see we don't get this rally, but we also just don't get the sell-off. We basically don't move. And that's almost the same thing that happens here. This orange to purple, there's not a huge price difference. There's really not much of a big price difference. And if we see how much we fell from the close to the close, it was 20%. But if we measure the difference here from close to close, it's literally the same. There'd be a percentage point in it. So again, bit of a deviation, but also we just didn't get the big black swan event that we got here. We just didn't get the rally that came before it either. So it leveled out. But once we do get this low, we do see a climb in Cardano, and we rally back up. And funnily enough, these highs create a resistance. They did this back in 2019, 2020, and 2021. Here we've seen it do it once again. It starts from 2023, kind of just straight line up. Cardano tags it, it gets rejected. Simple as that. And that's what happened here again. And then from this point on, it's a bit of a toss-up. There's not really much we can rely on. We can see that, first of all, the time that we spent from this high reaching this low, vastly different, much longer. The climb that we've had here, much different compared to the climb that we've had here. I'd say it's getting hard at this point to compare these two. One thing I will say, though, is that this cycle has been much more condensed for Cardano. Much more condensed. We can see here, if we measure from, if we're comparing this low, this start here, like I did, to the kind of inception of Cardano and its price action, it took us 141 weeks to get to this final high, this kind of last tag of the resistance before breaking above it in the next one. You can argue this is a tag, but we moved up 2 or 3 weeks later. This was 141 weeks. Here, if we check this one out, from the low to the last tag, it's 100 weeks. So you can see there's close to a year of time that's been lost in this current cycle, if we're assuming these are the same. Now you can prefix that with, well, we had an extremely long bull run the year before. So we've had more of a condensed move now in this time frame to account for that, to fit into the 4-year cycle. And that's also a valid point. I'm not here to say whether it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's something to be aware of. There's 40 weeks missing if we're comparing this move to this move, which I think is somewhat of a valid comparison. Again, in the broad strokes, things do look quite similar. It's just now where things are starting to stretch out. If you want to take it from the white, so if we go from inception to the low here, 156 weeks, we go from this low here to the white that we've currently put in, it's 120. So the gap is closing slightly. I just wonder how much more of the gap will it close in this interim. So whereas before, from this low, we spent here with this white line, riding up this support basically. When we put in the white bottom, we bounced off this support pretty strongly and didn't come back down to it for, it took us 8 weeks. We were there for 8 weeks. Here, I haven't actually checked this, but I assume it's more or less the same right now. We're at 6 weeks. So you could argue we've got 2 more weeks and then we're going to bounce. I don't know if that will happen. And historically, the summer lull is very prevalent in crypto. Now, just because it's happened before doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But I know that Bitcoin is going to put in a golden cross pretty soon, if it hasn't already. And that usually means short-term bad price action. And if Bitcoin goes down, you can sure as hell bet Cardano isn't going up. You know what I mean? So I would maybe be a bit wary in the short term. Now, what does this actually mean for Cardano? Again, short term, I wouldn't be too sure. We might get one more rally, end of May, beginning of June. We might get one strong move up. Hell, we might come back up above this kind of dollar price. We might see something like this happen. I'm not quite sure. Again, Bitcoin's the one that's putting in all-time highs at the moment. Altcoins might decide to catch up a few weeks later. But again, I feel like they're only going to catch up if Bitcoin keeps going up. And Bitcoin dominance is literally at an all-time high again. I think it's close to 70%. this is not the altcoin market right now. I think realistically, we're probably going to see Cardano do a whole lot of nothing over the next few months. I think if we're going to get a good price move, we'll get it soon. If not, I think we'll probably just trade slightly sideways and down. We'll probably see this kind of a move take place. You know what I mean? Where we just have kind of strong downward price action for maybe 1 or 2 months. So where here we traded down for 4 months and we put in these lows. Here we kind of did a similar thing, traded down for 3 or 4 months. Here I expect we'll probably trade down for a month or 2. We might come back up to maybe meet a resistance line like this. I'm not sure. And when we get to this crunch, that's when Cardano will probably get rejected. If the crunch is set for beginning of July, these things always happen much sooner than kind of when these two lines meet. So taking away a month, we're around June when we probably see some kind of move. Anyway, for me, I wouldn't be buying Cardano right now. Obviously, kind of this was your buying time if you were going to get back into the crypto space or put new capital into crypto. But even then, Cardano is probably not what you want to be buying right now. Again, Bitcoin looks so good. And Bitcoin's always looked good, to be honest with you. And I think it will continue to look good for the next, at least 6 months, realistically. But hey, that's just my opinion. Do I think we could see returns to Cardano's all-time high? And for reference, that's about $3. I actually think we're it's debatable at this point. I mean, back at the beginning of this year, end of last year, when things were really, really, really suddenly shooting up, and we saw this move here, November to December, it was very much on the table. Okay, Bullrun's here, guys. Strap in. We did a 4x, and then we just traded down. Basically, we lost a lot of the value that we gained, but we've stayed at an elevated level, which is good. And we're more or less now where we are back at the start of 2024. I think we might see a similar thing happen, where we just go sideways for a while, and then get another strong rally up. Do I think that strong rally can bring us to all-time highs? It's possible. It depends kind of what price we start at. If Cardano trades down to 50 cent again, and then it gets another 3-4x rally, I can see that happening. I can see that being above $2. Do I see it reaching 3? I honestly don't know. It's really hard to say. I think that's not something I can call, to be honest with you. We're seeing now as well, like this move that Bitcoin has made. It's nothing to do with the broader market. Bitcoin's just rallying because there are people buying Bitcoin. There is no retail buying here. And if there is retail buying, they're buying Bitcoin. They're not buying alts, really. Because I think they've all been burnt from the kind of the meme coin craze, and people are actually going now, hey, does this thing actually have any value, or is it literally just gambling? And I think they're applying that to all crypto now, not just the random meme coins. I think they're looking at Cardano, they're looking at Avalanche, they're looking at Chainlink, they're looking at Solana, they're looking at ETH, they're looking at Sonic, whatever, and they're going, does this actually do anything? Is there something out there that's doing it better? If so, why would I put my money in? And that's actually a really valid question. So it kind of depends whether people look at Cardano and think, is there something out there that's doing it better? A lot of people would argue yes. Anyway, enough with the USD. Let's take a quick look at the Bitcoin pair. Again, as we can see, Cardano, like most altcoins, has kind of just been putting in, over the long term, lower highs. And you can see we spend most of our time oscillating within this range, which is 400 Satoshis or sats to 3,000 sats. And then our bull runs, you can see we get wicks above this range. And occasionally in our bear runs, we wick below, but we have actually, the longer Cardano is spent, the more it's plateaued on each end. The more it's normalized, the more it's tended to the middle. You can see this cycle, we haven't actually come down and touched this low that previous cycles we went below in. Now, that doesn't mean we can't go down there. There's probably a good case to argue that we will. And in my opinion, that kind of depends on whether we break down below this support that we've been riding for close to 2 months now, and that's at the 700 sat level. If we break down below this, I don't know where the bottom will be, realistically. And that's just because it's been a somewhat important level over the last year. We can see back in March, April, we found support here for a month or two before being rejected. We then rallied back up and got rejected from it again. We then absolutely shot up past it, came back down, found support here, rallied back up, and now we're back down testing this support again. Which to me is, if something keeps coming back to test a support, it's almost like there's writing on the wall, and you need a kind of, not a miracle event, but something great to happen for us to really get rid of this like bad smell that is this support that we keep visiting. And even then, it might not be enough, because February we obviously saw something good happen, and we came right back down to it afterwards. So we could just see something like this where we get another, maybe even a shorter rally, and then we just come back down and break below. Again, if we're going to get a rally, I feel like it's going to be in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. But I do feel like we're probably going to bleed on the Bitcoin pair for another little while, at least. Do I think we could come down to these lows? It's possible. I think it will be harder than it looks, though, just because we didn't come down to it when I thought we most likely would. Like, this was the time for it to happen, historically. And again, it's usually before the halving when we put in the main lows. Here it was after the halving, which kind of indicates more of a stretched out bear run, which I feel like is another valid reason to assume that we might not come down to this low, because we put in a lot of pain was felt here, and a lot of pain was felt here, but one was a slow, constant pain, and the other one was a jarring, rip the band-aid off, 3 months of just kill me now. And then we kind of, well, we did the same thing later on, but we've kind of seen that again. Again, these time periods, in my opinion, 2019 to 2021, I think they're very comparable to what happened in 2023, 2024, 2025. We kind of see these declines, rallies, and then declines again. I think what we're looking at here does look very similar to 2020, where we get a strong rally up from the low, and then we get a big correction. And again, we've dropped similar levels here. I think we could be in to see another move like this. But if we're basing it completely on historical, and we're trying to compare these times, you can see we do get very similar moves from very similar levels. This is basically the same price, 800 sats, that we moved up from back in 2019. We did the same thing back in 2023. We moved up, we came down, put in the low. Here we spent time at the low. Here we just went straight back up. Here we went straight back up. 300%, 275% of a move. Here we did 200% of a move. Here it was 59 weeks from the high to the next high. Here it was 47. So we can see this is, again, more condensed, like we were seeing on the USD chart. Less percentage moves during less time. But overall, if you zoom out, they look similar. And again, we're having this drop now. We're having this sell-off where we see sudden sharp moves up, followed by sudden sharp moves down. Here we had a strong sell-off. This is that strong sell-off maybe. And then we had a rally and then a sell-off even lower. Here we've had that rally. Potentially we could see this sell-off lower. I definitely think we're probably going to, realistically, I think we're going to go below this 700 sat level, in my opinion. It's just a question of how low. There's a good case to be made that we don't go that much lower. Maybe we find support at the 600. Maybe we come back down to, the cycle low at sub 500. Maybe we come back down to the historic low of like 450, 440. It's really a toss-up. But at that point, I think if we do come back down to these lows, I really do think we're due some kind of a very strong explosive move if we're going to get it. And you could argue at this point we're not going to get it, and that would be valid. I don't think we're going to break above the 3,000 Satoshi line this year. I don't know if we'll ever break above it again. I wouldn't hold out for that. That wouldn't be my case. But I would be relying more on the BTC chart than the USD chart if I'm planning my sell, if I'm going to plan selling my Cardano. We need to see Bitcoin dominance go down, and we need to see Cardano take that share of the dominance, be one of the big ones that claims dominance away from BTC. If it's not, we're not going to see this line go up much. And if we don't see that, then you might as well just be holding Bitcoin, realistically. That's exactly what it means, actually. Do I think we'll tag this line? Nope. I think it's kind of too high up at this point. Maybe in 2 or 3 years when it's much lower. Maybe when it's at 3,000 sats, we might visit it. Maybe when it's below 3,000 sats. I don't know. I think that's a long way away. These are also all my opinions. I have no way of knowing. I would be more of a bearish, skeptical person, especially after what we've seen. But maybe that's when I'm more likely to be proven wrong. Who knows? Either way, I wish you the best of luck. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike too. That's totally fine. Hope you have a great day and that you're enjoying the summer. Take care and peace.